Ben Shapiro is dead wrong about Wake Up Dead Man. I don't care about politics, okay? But I do care about movies and I deeply care about faith. And I want to talk about Ben Shapiro's Wake Up Dead Man review and kind of pick it apart because it's legit terrible.
Alrighty, folks, we're here to review Wake Up Dead Man. It's the latest Knives Out mystery from director Rian Johnson, responsible for masterpieces like The Last Jedi.
All right, I'll admit that was super funny. I don't like The Last Jedi. Tossing the lightsaber, one of the worst decisions in cinematic history, but let's move on.
Wake up! The latest...
That's great editing.
Okay, so, gigantic cast. You look at this cast and you think this could be like an all-time great murder mystery, right? This could be an Agatha Christie murder mystery. You got Daniel Craig as Benoit Blanc, the private detective. You have Josh O'Connor as Judd Duplessis, who is a priest and former boxer. Good actor, he's good. You have Glenn Close. You have Josh Brolin, Mila Kunis, Jeremy Renner, Kerry Washington, and...
I'm sorry. One of those is out of place. If you're talking about, this amazing cast. Mila Kunis, you know, she's funny. She's funny as Jackie in that 70s show. But I don't know if she's up to snuff with everyone else.
You know it's both personal and sentimental? Diamonds.
I get the point. It's a big cast. There's a lot of great actors in it.
A veritable wealth of riches, a cornucopia. And somehow Rian Johnson blows all of it. I will say that the movie holds your interest. It holds your interest because it moves pretty fast, but it violates the same cardinal rule as Glass Onion.
It's so dumb.
It's so dumb, it's brilliant.
No!
And this drives me up a wall. If you're going to present a mystery, like the original Knives Out, you must present the clues to the viewer such that if they watch the first 2 acts of the film, and then the reveal happens in the 3rd act, sure, they might have missed something, but all the clues are present, so you could have theoretically figured out who did what. In the first Knives Out, this is actually there. In the first Knives Out, very unlikely you're able to figure out the mystery the first time you watch it, but once you know the answer, you could go back and rewatch the first Knives Out, despite all my criticisms of the film, and you could actually see how the mystery was constructed. My big critique of Glass Onion is that precisely the opposite was true.
My twin sister committed suicide.
You could watch the first half of the film, and you would learn 0 things that were really relevant to solving the mystery.
All right, I get his point. You want a mystery movie to make sense. That's fair. But a mystery movie making sense and actually showing you the work are very different things. There are a lot of mystery movies that just don't actually ever show you how something happened. They just tell you it did. But sometimes there is that reveal in the 3rd act, and it kind of brings things to light, and you can kind of put together the clues. Obviously, Knives Out had quite a bit of that, probably more than these other 2, but Glass Onion does as well. Like a specific moment, you could clearly see Helen drop something in Kate Hudson's bag when they're at the pool. But here in Wake Up Dead Man, you have those as well. The metal clang of the flask dropping when Brolin's in the room by himself. The slide even, we hear it slide behind the door, but we never see it. Father Judd talking about how he rejoins the others, even very obvious ones, like Thomas Hayden Church walking through the clearing of the trees. You have a bunch of those. Now, whether you could piece those together or not and get the full idea of the movie, to me, that is definitely not a disconnect to me not being able to enjoy the movie, because honestly, more than most movie mysteries, this movie isn't about the mystery.
Well, none of the characters are really interesting enough, except for perhaps Josh O'Connor's character and Daniel Craig, to hold your interest. Josh Brolin, who plays the Monsignor Jefferson Wicks, is charismatic and interesting, but he's the murder victim, and so he's basically out of the movie inside of the first third of the movie.
No, he's not. Like, he is the murder victim, but he's probably the person who gets the most screen time outside of those 2. So that's a little weird. Like, that's a moment that you're like, did you see the movie?
Now we go to the actual plot of the movie. Basically, Josh O'Connor is a young priest who has been deployed to this parish run by Josh Brolin's Monsignor Jefferson Wicks, who is this charismatic and nasty right-wing priest. He's there basically to yell at all the people who come into his fold and to alienate them. The very basis of this movie is that religion is bad, unless it's basically the opiate of the masses.
Wow. Tell me you don't understand Christianity without telling me you don't understand Christianity. Now, as I get into this, I don't usually talk about this side of my life. I am a person of deep faith. I have 3 degrees in theology, 2 postgraduate. So, as far as theology, I know what I'm talking about. I could go teach somewhere. I don't think that's necessarily the case with Ben Shapiro. Definitely when it comes to Christianity, I know he's Jewish. But this saying something like that is brazen as heck because this is actually a beautiful display of different aspects of Christianity. Because you have Monsignor Wicks, who views himself as a righteous warrior, that he's fighting the world, that they're the enemy. He has the truth, so he is going to attack them with that truth.
Because the world wants to destroy us. Your version of love and forgiveness is a sop. It's going along to get along with modernity, not wanting to offend this garbage world. Meanwhile, they destroy us.
And then you have the flip of the coin. You have Father Judd, who views the world in a very compassionate way, a way that he often says he used to be like. What that is actually a real Christian, someone who actually believes in the biblical version of Jesus, not a Jesus of politics or a Jesus that gives you power, but Jesus who actually reached out to sinners, the guy who touched the leper, the one who reached into the darkness and pulled people out of it. That's what Father Judd views his role as a priest to be.
God didn't hide me or fix me. He loves me when I'm guilty. That's what I should be doing for these people, not this whodunit game.
Now, I come from the Protestant world. I'm not a Catholic, and Rian Johnson comes from the Protestant world as well, very similar to me, actually. And he goes into discussion about this, where he talks about how this is the point that he wanted to raise up in this film. This is what he said.
By Josh O'Connor is kind of, he's, for lack of a better term, the protagonist of the movie. And he's a very good-hearted priest, and I kind of put everything that I genuinely love about Christianity and about what it's all about to me and to him. Blanc is, he's not the antithesis of that. There's another character, Josh Brolin, who's kind of where I put all the stuff that I don't feel so great about in Christianity today.
So unlike what Ben Shapiro is trying to communicate here, that Rian Johnson is some liberal elite who doesn't know anything about religion and he's pointing his finger at people and saying, you're the bad guy, that's not what Rian Johnson is doing at all. Actually, this is a very personal film about a man who comes from a deeply religious background and wrestling with what he has seen in his religion. Wrestling with those who obviously seize power and do it in a hypocritical way, like Monsignor Wicks, and those who actually believe this thing, like Father Judd, and even leaving us to wonder, who are we? Are we the person that's hypocritical? We sin, we do things that are against our faith, or are we the innocent people who actually believe this thing and are following through with the ethics of that faith? That's a beautiful message. It's a difficult message, but it's a beautiful one.
Rian Johnson clearly hates Catholicism. He clearly hates religion. His basic take on religion is that religion, which sets moral standards and demands things of you, is bad. Only morons believe it. The original story is nonsense and trash. And basically, if it offers you any value, it's only the value in having kind of a good-hearted, low-level psychologist.
One, that's definitely not true about Rian Johnson and his view of religion, as he's often discussed in doing like all the press for this and as we just looked at. But also, how do you come away from this movie and not see the main character is Father Judd? Benoit Blanc's great, but Father Judd is the main character, which means that when he talks at the end, it probably matters more than Benoit Blanc just being like, I don't want to go to church. Like, there are several moments where Rian Johnson could have sat in cynicism and just let Father Wicks depict Christianity and then walk away. Or Benoit Blanc depict atheism and how all this religion is just hogwash to him. You could have just walked away from that. But every single time Father Judd came in with a good line about how this is actually real.
Do these stories convince us of a lie? Or do they resonate with something deep inside us that's profoundly true? we can't express any other way except storytelling.
It's definitely not a message of I hate religion, because if it was, then Father Judd wouldn't exist. He would be out of the picture. But Father Judd is the main character, constantly driving us back to Jesus. It seems very clear that while Rian Johnson might not be a Christian anymore, he does love the person of Jesus.
Daniel Craig's Detective Blanc actually says that. He says to the young priest, the reason you fell into religion is you felt guilty over the fact you were a boxer and you killed somebody in the ring, and therefore you sought a sense of absolution that you could only find in a church. And that is the message throughout the movie. Everybody who is deeply religious.
But then once again, Father Judd says no. He wants to care for people. He wants to lead them to Jesus, to find the forgiveness that he has found in Jesus.
That was the day that Christ saved my life. He didn't transform me. He sustains me every day. That's what I want this church to be for me and for all of you.
It's like Ben Shapiro only watched the Benoit Blanc and Monsignor Wicks scenes and then just like forgot about Father Judd completely. Again, even though he's the main character.
Josh Brolin's Wicks, he himself gets up there and he spews a bunch of kind of raging right-wing rhetoric about how the world is a threat to the church and you have to fight the world. And then it shows a bunch of YouTube videos of him, and they're all labeled with essentially Andrew Tate-like YouTube labels. He's supposed to be bad because he's a right-wing priest. That's why he's bad, as opposed to...
Actually, the reason why he's bad is because he takes the gospel message and twists it to his own devices to make himself look better and to have authority over these people. And remember, the whole premise of this is that Father Judd is basically parachuting into this parish and trying to bring the gospel. Like, it's very clear that Jeffrey Wright's character is looking at this church and saying, hey, something needs to change here. Let's take the guy who's obviously real about his faith, throw him in here and see if he could have some effect.
It could use some of what you said in there. You understand?
Not at all, but yes. Yes, 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 yes. Spirit's got me. Let me at him.
Hey. This, not this, right?
Monsignor Wicks is a bad pastor. That's what he is. It's not, oh, all these pastors are bad. It's this guy is bad. And look at the effect that he's having on his congregation. They're not following Jesus. They're not being more generous. They're not welcoming people. They're closing themselves off and looking at the world as enemies. Now, obviously, Ben Shapiro is correct in that Rian Johnson is using these ultra right-wingers to point out this main issue of hypocrisy and genuine faith with Monsignor Wicks and Father Judd. He's using the background of that. But to be fair, that's happening a lot. As someone who is a Christian, who is deeply involved in the theological world, I see that all the time. There are Monsignor Wicks out there who are not real believers, but are using hate and division to just rule and get a platform and to even chase that on YouTube. You see it all the time. So I think it's unfair to just be like, well, he shouldn't have to point that out. He can't use that because he's not using the liberal side. Well, can't you point out an issue without saying that every other issue has to be discussed? That's just dumb.
It's so dumb.
There's so many great actors here who are just thrown away. Andrew Scott is in another movie called Blue Moon this year, in which he plays Richard Rogers, and he's tremendous. He's a really great actor.
I just rewatched Sherlock, and holy crap, yeah, he is a great actor. But here, that's the deal. That's the deal with a big cast. You can't focus on everybody, especially when you're trying to wrestle with these big ideas of religion and how politics affects our religion and all that kind of stuff. The reason why it's not an attack on Catholicism is actually the same reason why Andrew Scott didn't have as much screen time. Father Judd. Because we focus so much on Father Judd so that the main message of this movie is actually, it makes sense and drills home, is because he has so much screen time. And if he didn't, and if we focus so much on these other characters, well, we probably would have people saying, yeah, it is an attack and not just Ben Shapiro.
That person is played by Daryl McCormick. The son of Jefferson Wicks is, of course, an aspiring right-wing politician. And so everything that he does is driven by his desire for power and his desire for glory. So the whole town is set up as this really right.
I think it's funny that Ben barely mentions that, but like, obviously that's a stand-in for people who would be in Ben Shapiro's orbit. Maybe not him, but people in that orbit of trying to make money on YouTube through politics. That's that world. And he like kind of goes like, yeah, I don't like it, moving on.
Like in Star Wars?
Yeah, exactly, like the rebels.
Right, so that is the politics of the film. And again, the politics of the film is so scornful of traditional Catholicism. At no point do you get a real defense of Catholicism in any real way. Again, the only value of religion in this particular movie is that a religious person could theoretically make a lady feel better after she led a terrible life, and then she's dying. That's
one, again, just completely forgetting all of Father Judd's monologues. There are several that you could point to and give, like, I'm not even a Catholic, but you can point to and say that's a defense of Christianity.
We're looking for a murderer. This is not a game.
It is a game! Solving it, winning it, getting your big checkmate moment. And by using me in it, you're setting me against my real and only purpose in life, which is not to fight the wicked and bring them to justice, but to serve them and bring them to Christ. Otherwise, I'm just as bad as Wicks, making it about me and not Jesus.
This is obviously a man who has never had to hold the hand of a dying congregant, a man who hasn't had to perform funerals, to be there in these dark moments of a family's life when someone passes away or something terrible happens. That is the most that faith can offer. Faith can give you peace. It can give you not just a fake sense of, oh, I'm going to be calmed down, which is what Ben Shapiro is trying to communicate here, but a real sense of peace, that you know that there is someone, a higher power, looking out for you, that there is someone who loves you, who cares for you, and most importantly, the forgiveness of your sins. And Ben Shapiro is acting like that's nothing. Forgiveness is what we all want. That's the main thing. And that's only what Jesus offers, is freedom from those sins, those trespasses. He absorbs them on the cross, an important point that we'll point to in just a minute. But that's the point of Christianity, is the forgiveness of sins. I think it's pretty calloused of Ben Shapiro to just act like that's not a big deal. Like that's the whole point of religion. So yes, a priest or a pastor helping someone as they pass away and telling them that Jesus has forgiven their sins is a pretty big deal. And it's actually a beautiful moment.
God, the Father of mercies, through the death and resurrection of his Son, has reconciled the world to himself.
the only characters you're going to remember coming out of this are Daniel Craig, Josh O'Connor, Glenn Close, and Josh Brolin. Everybody else is a complete throwaway. It appears
the only people you're going to come away remembering are 4 people. Like, that's quite a bit, you know? A lot of movies would love for you to remember 1 person, but 4 is like, that's half the cast, you know?
It's lazy. It's just lazy, which is the hallmark of Rian Johnson. Rian Johnson is a lazy writer. When he comes up with these ideas, he does not bother.
I mean, if he was a lazy writer, he could just write the most boring, pointless murder mystery. But what he's trying to do is to have something that's actually meaningful inside of it, not just entertainment, but deal with something heavy. Like, he didn't have to do that. He didn't have to put this in, a parish. He didn't have to deal with religion at all or politics at all. It could have just been like, who died on a bus, you know? That would be the lazy way to do it, the Netflix way to do it.
Get out!
Very, very little sense. Like a tag on the end as to what happened with this fortune that's sort of at the center of all of this, that's been converted into the diamond. And instead of using the diamond to do something good or worthwhile, or use that fortune to make people's lives better, the diamond is just sitting inside a statue at the end.
This is the moment that I was like, I'm going to make a video about this. I can ignore some dumb takes, but to not see the beautiful imagery here is just insanity. To look at a carving of Jesus Christ on a cross and not get the symbolism, the whole time this movie has been talking about this diamond as this temptation, this sin. And so the original guy, the original owner, the priest, he swallows it and it kills him. The only one who can absorb this sin, absorb this temptation, and bring peace and forgiveness is Jesus. It's literally right there in his heart. He is the only one who could do it because he absorbs the sin of the world. How can you talk about religion and Christianity in any public way and not see this? I think it's beautiful, but Ben Shapiro obviously missed it completely.
Makes me sick. These kids painting rocket ships all over his sacred resting place.
I wish I could say that it were not a bad movie, but this has become typical for Rian Johnson, who really, I think, has a deep and abiding dislike of his own audience. I'm not sure there's a more overrated filmmaker working today than Rian Johnson. Honestly, it's astonishing how overrated he is.
I get it. I get it. You don't like The Last Jedi. You know, you're heartbroken about Star Wars, and, you know, in a way, so am I. I love Star Wars. I didn't like The Last Jedi. I hate what they did with Luke Skywalker. But that doesn't mean Rian Johnson will continue to make mistake after mistake. And it doesn't mean that we should hold the sins of that movie against him for the rest of his whole career. If you're like that, okay, you can hold a grudge, I guess. For me, I'm going to take each movie as he gives it and say, you know, maybe I'm going to like it, maybe I'm not. I liked Glass Onion. I really liked Wake Up Dead Man because there was so much more that was going on. It's definitely not as good as the original Knives Out. To me, that's an all-timer. But Wake Up Dead Man actually has a lot more to say in this world of faith that I deeply care about and that Ben Shapiro, I don't think, knows anything about. Let me know what you think about all this down in the comment section. Hit the like button if you like this kind of content. Let me know if I should do some more reactions to things like this. It's a new thing. I'm just giving it a shot this time. We'll see if we do it again, but let me know if you like it down in the comment section. Subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next one.
So, that's how I came to Chimney Rock. Daniel in the lion's den. David facing off Goliath. Young, dumb, and full of Christ.